All right, everybody. Good night, good night, good night. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi, hi, hi. Nice to have you. Um, Tonight we are going through Pascal in 1 hour, so I don't have time to waste, right? So I start in one time. Pascal programming in 1 hour for everybody who doesn't understand Pascal programming, and they've been begging me, like, sir, do a video on how to do Pascal programming. And I was like, all right, I'll do a video on how to do Pascal programming, but you have to come in live, and then they won't come in live. So I'll just do it and then I'll leave it there, because a lot of people going to end up having to watch this video over Christmas when they have to do their SBA, because their teacher demands that they do Pascal, but nobody ever teaches them how to do Pascal. Struggle, boy, struggle. Let's see on the inside. Faith on the inside. Jared, Jelani on the inside. Jelani Francis. This is the first time I've seen you, Jelani. Nice to have you on the inside. Ren and Spanish here. Everybody on the inside. So I'm going to start by showing you where to go to download Pascal. So we're going through Pascal programming in 1 hour. In 1 hour, I'm going to show you everything that you need to know for IT, CSEC IT, that is required when you learn Pascal programming. So basically, we're going all the way up to loops, and that's basically, yeah, we're going all the way up to loops. So while loops and for loops, and that should solve your problem. So let's go. We starting with to download Pascal. Dev Pascal is what you're looking for. Search for Dev Pascal. Dev Pascal will be in a site called bloodshed.net. Why it's called bloodshed.net? I don't care. That's the name of the company. Whatever. So you click here, and this is where you get Dev Pascal and you get Dev C++ at the same time. Just my lights kind of vexable. Lights, fix yourself. Nice, cool, right. Right, so you click on Dev Pascal, you will see Dev Pascal here, and you will see download Dev Pascal plus free compiler. You click here, and it will ask you if you want to download Dev Pascal. It will be devpass192.exe or some kind of thing like that, right? Cool. Download that, install that, click next, accept everything. Don't worry about any drama, and then you'll have Dev Pascal installed. For the folks that don't have a Windows laptop and you want to program in Pascal, I will show you a site that you could go to write your program in Pascal, and it should work the same way. So the site that you could go to if you want to write your program in Pascal, but you don't have a Pascal compiler, is OnlineGDB. OnlineGDB.com. OnlineGDB.com, and then when you go to the website, you could code in almost any language that you want, but you go on the top right hand side here and you go by select, and then you scroll down and see if you find Pascal. Pascal should be here. Pascal. Yeah, Pascal is here, right? So you could code in Pascal, and then when you click compile here, you could run it, and you will see the compiled output will come up at the bottom here. You'll see hello world. So if you don't have a Windows laptop, Windows device, and you can't run Pascal with your computer, you could go there and download it, right? Okay, good. So I'm using Dev Pascal. So we're going to go from the start. First thing that you must know in Pascal is that you have to give your thing a program name. So what I'm going to do, the way I'm going to be teaching it is I'm going to do a line, and I'm going to tell you what the computer understands by that line. So, and I'll put comments in between. So when you create a program, you have to give your program a name. The name of the program here, I'm going to name this program Hello World. Now, the first mistake that you need to make sure that you don't do is you can't put a space in your program name. You must have it with no program name. So think of it like a hashtag. When you're putting a hashtag, you string words together and you don't put a space. So you put in hello world, and you have to put a semicolon. The reason you put in a semicolon is because Pascal understands the semicolon as like a full stop. So like how we write sentences where we write a set of words, and then when we put a full stop, that means we are finished with that line, move on to the next line. That's the concept. So semicolons are your best friend in terms of making sure that your program is structured properly, but they're also your worst enemy if you forget them. So you click program hello world, and that is the name of the program. The first thing that you're going to need to learn is that every program must have a begin and an end. If you don't have a begin and end, the computer or the compiler won't know how to go, because it won't know where to start and where to stop. So normally when you're doing algorithms, it's like this, where you have a start and a stop, right? For Pascal, you must have begin and the end must have a full stop. If the end does not have a full stop, then you're screwed, because the compiler won't know when to stop. So the most basic command that you need to learn to do is a print command. So to print something in Pascal, you have two ways that you could print. Both of them are similar commands, but just with a modification at the end. So you have write and you have write line. Write line. So write, this is, no, single quotes, sorry. Double quotes or single quotes? Yeah. Single quotes for when you want to write something. So this is going to write to the screen. And then I put a semicolon. So a simple write command is the word write. This is going to write to the screen, and then you put a semicolon at the end, and the computer will understand that you want to write to the screen the words this is going to write to the screen. So when I do that now, my job now is to send all of this information. I have to send it to something called the compiler. The compiler will look at the lines and check to see if it's making sense. So think of it like writing an essay. Think of it like writing some sort of paper that you're giving it to a teacher, and the teacher is going to read it or watch it. This is what exactly a compiler does. A compiler looks at the lines to see if it makes sense. So before I send it to the compiler, I could read it first to check to make sure it's making sense. So I could say program hello world, and there is a semicolon. That means this is correct, because I said that the name of the program is here. The name of it is hello world. There are no spaces, and I put a semicolon, which means the computer will understand the name of the program is hello world. Semicolon is like, full stop. Then you have begin. Begin now is going to tell the compiler, this is where we are going to start giving you exact instructions for you to follow. So the first exact instruction I want you to follow is write on the screen. This is going to write to the screen. So the single quotes tells the compiler, this is what I want to come up on the screen. Notice if I don't put the single quotes, everything will turn black. Right? So the compiler doesn't really understand what is going on there. So if I put the single quote and I put the next single quote, that is what is going to come out on the screen, whatever between the single quotes. And then the semicolon is basically saying, I'm finished with that line. And the next thing that comes after this is end full stop. End full stop basically means I am done with the program. So I could click on execute on top here, and then click compile, which is a green arrow, or I could just click the green arrow that's here for compile. If you're using some other IDE or whatnot, then you could do that too. So you click on that there, and then this box will come up in the middle where it will say compiling. When it's compiling, it will tell you two things, the total errors and the size of the output file. You don't really need to know the size of the output file. All you care about is that it compiled and you have 0 errors. 0 errors means that you have successfully given instructions to the computer and it makes sense. Yeah, like, I don't know if you ever experienced when somebody, like, gives you instructions and you're like, what? What does that mean? Because they'll be like, take the thing out of the thing and put the thing inside the next thing and bring the thing for me. And they'd be like, how much things are there? That doesn't make sense. You know the thing, right? The thing over there, like that don't make sense. So when you're talking to the computer in a programming language like Pascal, you have to speak the language. So once that is done, you click continue, or click continue if you want to go back to edit the code, or you can click execute. When you click execute, it will, the program basically flashed on the screen there. Like, watch really carefully. You see that thing that popped up there? The program flashed on the screen. The reason it didn't stick on the screen is because I didn't put any command to tell the computer, after you do this command, wait for me, or wait for the stuff to appear on the screen. So in order for me to get it to wait, I have to put a read line. Read line now is a command that basically says, wait for me to press something on the keyboard. That's what you're telling the computer. So you're saying, wait for me to press something on the keyboard. So now the instructions are, write this to the screen and then wait for me to press something on the keyboard. And then I click. And if I click execute now, it will pop up and say, this is going to write to the screen. Now notice where the cursor is. The cursor is right here. The cursor. So that means the next thing that happens is going to happen right next to this word N. So let me show you. If I print something else, so I'm going to undo a write again. Write. This is the next sentence. What that does is it will compile and I will get both of the sentences being bunched up next to each other. So I have, this is going to write to the screen. This is the next sentence. And that is not what I want. I don't want that to happen. I want it to actually go to the next line. So in order to go to the next line, I have to use a command called writeLine or writeln. All right. So let's click writeln. Writeln now, this is a different command to write. Write will write the words on one line and then leave it right there. But writeln would write it and then the next thing that happens will go on the next line. So in the previous example, all of the information came out on one line, but now when I recompile this and I execute it, you'll see this is going to write to the screen and then the next thing ends up here and it says this is the next sentence. So if I write a next line now and I want to put a next word, which is here, this is another sentence. So I'm going to change this to another. This is another sentence. So what is going to happen is because I have writeLine here, this one is going to write to the screen, and then this one here is going to come on the next line. But this one here is going to immediately follow the one that was before because I didn't put writeLine. So just to demonstrate, make sure you understand that concept because the difference between write and writeLine is important, especially when you're doing your program. So that will happen there. So now I want to put writeln. Good. So this will solve my writing problem. So that's the difference between write and writeLine. Any questions? If you don't have any questions, I will move on because I'm trying to do this whole thing in an hour. Next thing you have to learn now is how to read. So in order to read, you must grasp the concept of variables first. So let's grasp the concept of variables before we jump into reads. When you're creating variables in Pascal, you have different types of variables. So you could have, one is an integer. So an integer is a whole number, positive or negative, right? Then let's say I create a next variable b, which will be a real, which is a decimal number, positive or negative. All right, those are the two number variables. Then yeah, I think that's basically all I need. Then you could have char. So I could have name, no, letter, and I'll put it as char. And then this is one letter that is one letter or symbol from the keyboard. And then I could put string now, which will be like name. String is a bunch of letters like a name, right? Something like that. So each one of these variables are per comment. So while we're at it, let me explain to you what a comment is. To the compiler, when the compiler looks at this program, it will say, okay, program hello world, and then it will see the semicolon, and then the semicolon will be the sign to say, okay, I'm finished with that line. Once I say A is the name of the variable, integer is the type. The computer is going to create a box for A, a box for B, a box for letter, and then a set of boxes to hold a name, right? And these two forward slashes here, that is a comment. The computer will ignore this. From the time the computer sees two forward slashes, anything that comes after is going to be ignored because it's seeing it as a comment. There's another way to put in a comment where you could click, where you could put curly brackets, and then whatever you put between the curly brackets, is a comment. right? So, two ways to put in comments. Comments usually are necessary when you're doing your code so that people will understand what is going on. And, well, they should understand what is going on. All right. So, we're back to these variables now. So, we have all these variables here. Now, let's try to see what will happen if we assign values to these variables. So, to assign a value, you need to use something called an assignment statement, which is a colon and an equal sign. A colon and an equal sign basically says whatever is on the right-hand side of the equal sign, put it inside the left-hand side of the equal sign. So if I say A colon equal 3, semicolon, that says take the number 3 and put it inside the variable A. Then if I say B colon equal 4.5, that means take whatever is in the 4.5 and put it inside B. Because the reason I'm putting 4.5 here is because I declared B as a real, which is a decimal number, positive or negative. So I just put that in like that. All right. Then if I want to assign a letter, I would be able to say letter colon equal A. I think I'd put it in single quotes, if I remember carefully. Can't remember exactly. And this is me assigning variables into the thing, right? Right, now a string, I'll want to read a string from the user because that's most likely how you're going to read it. So this is basically me assigning variables. Now let me see if I could write out those variables. So I'm going to write line, the value in A is colon, and then, no, I had to put this in single quotes, my bad. Single quotes, right? Remember, whatever you put in single quotes is going to come up on the screen. And then I have to put a comma and say which variable I want to print. The variable I want to print is A. And if I want to print a next variable, I have to put a comma in between that. Because what I'm saying is, put the value of A is, and then put whatever is inside A. Whatever is inside A, in this case, we assign 3 inside of it, so that it should work like that. And then I could put a next colon, the value in B is, single quotes, and then I put a comma, and then I'll put the B, and then I'll close the brackets, and then put a semicolon. So what I've said to the computer is, write all these things to the screen, which we did that already. Take A and put the 3 inside of A. Take B, put 4.5 inside of B, and take letter and put A inside of it. And then write line, the value of A is, that will come up on the screen. Then, comma, whatever is inside A should print. Put a next comma, put more words to the screen, and then put B. Let's see what happens when I try to compile this. I might get error because error begin expected with identifier A found. Yeah. See, no, okay. All right, let me do this the safer way just to make sure that I don't confuse anybody. All right, the safer way to do it is to print all of them one after the other, and you wouldn't really have a problem. So if that will work for you, then you just do it like this. The value of A is A, and the value of B is B. And you run that. And I think I messed this up here. This A not supposed to be like that. I think it's supposed to be double quotes. Let's see. I can't remember this exactly. I don't use Pascal that much. Haven't used it in a while. All right, so we take out the letter, take out the character. Leave that there for now. What is your issue? A integer program hello world. Begin expected. Identifier A found. Lost me there. Is it that? Why are you vexed with me? What did I do wrong? I lost. What? How did I make a mistake here? Program hello world string. Real integer character. We didn't have any errors before. Why all of a sudden you have an error? Alright, I'm gonna take this out here and see if that fixes. Nope. Did I spell it wrong? Integer. Was you really seeing life way? That's now. Pascal, you are being annoying. Alright, so let's try this again. A integer. Because it's not like C where you have to do int A. Anybody see any error? I like dying here trying to figure out what's going on. A integer. Okay, let me take that out and see if it's. Oh, I forgot to put the word variables. Right. Okay, cool. Yeah, forget to put var. Right, good. So in order to declare the variables, you have to put the word var. V-A-R. Right. Because the compiler won't know what the variables are if you don't say var. Right, my bad. Right. So when you put the var, this tells the compiler I'm going to list the variables that I want to put here. So I've listed the variables, but I didn't have the word var because var says these are all the variables I want to use. So now I should get 0 errors. Right, good. So when I execute it, it will now say this is going to write to the screen. This is the next sentence. This is another sentence. You realize the value is 3 came up there and the value is 4.5 blah blah blah, right? I don't want this is our next sentence to do that, so I'm going to put right line here. That way each thing will end up in a new line, and then what you'll notice is that the value that was the decimal came up as 4.5 to the power of plenty with a lot of zeros. Look at all these zeros that comes up here. We don't want that. So in order to print that out properly, you have to put 5:2 or something like that. That way the variable will take 5 characters on the left hand side, 5 numbers and 5 digits on the left hand side, and 2 on the right hand side. So now I'll get, nope. Where do I have to put this 5.2, 5:2? I have to leave it like that. No, it'll give my error. Do I have to put it before? Almost there. 5.2. This is to get the decimal places correct. Nope, it's still not coming up correct. When in doubt, Google. What? Gosh. Don't you hate it when you Google something and you get like these really complicated sites that tell you all sort of stuff that, like, no, I'm just doing this for CSEC. This is supposed to be really simple. I don't want any drama. Oh, I'm supposed to put a colon in front of it and then the next one. Okay, cool. Yeah. All right, so if I want to be, I have to put a colon 5:2. That way, it should print it with 4.5. Right, good. So, yeah, so the colon 5:2, yeah, that goes in front of the actual variable. So you have to put it right next to the variable, all in one line. So I want to print out B with 5 characters on the left hand side and then 2 on the right hand side. Thank you very much, Sheik. Right. Okay, so that is writing variables. So we wrote that. Now let's read variables. So to read something, you have to put read or read line. So if I put read, and then I put A, then I will basically be asking the user to put something inside A. Now, before you ever read something, it'll be wise to prompt them, right? So I'll prompt them. So I'll put write line. Please enter a new value for A. And I put in single quotes and I do that, right? So then I'll read A. And then what I want to do is I want to print out the value that I get for A. So I will put that underneath here, like that. And then I run it again and execute. Now it will print all the stuff that I had before, but now it will say please enter a new value for A. And the new value I put in for A will be 598. 598, that's what I said. And it just stopped. The reason is because sometimes Pascal requires 2 read lines at the end for it to not skip out on you. I don't know why I need 2 read lines, but long story short, just put the 2 read lines and your life will be better. So 598, and then also the value of A is 598. So therefore, what I've done so far are the basics. I've printed some things to the screen. I'll show you what's the difference between write line and write. I've put something into a variable manually and printed it back out for you. And then I've asked the user to enter a number, and I printed back out the number, and it will work. Same thing will work as if I ask them to put a value for B. So I could put write line, please put in a value for B. I'll probably paste this code in the comments of this video, so y'all could like look at this code if you want. Because these are like all the basics, like basic. If you could do these things, you should be good. So then I'm printing back out a value for B, but remember my value for B is a float, right? So because I'm using a float, not float, a real, yeah. I'll put the 5:2. That means I'll be able to hold at least 5. I'll be able to go up to like 1,000 or something, 10,000, I believe, yeah. So run it again, let's see, so just print out, ask me to enter a new value for A, which I'll put 45, it'll say enter a new value for B, which I'll put 34.6778. And it will print it out from where the value is 45, the value is 34.78, and that is reading. Right? Now, you could put read or read line, both of them will work depending on the type of compiler you use. You know, life might give you some problems, but that's okay. All right, so that is the basics of reading and writing. If you have any questions, ask in the chat. If you don't have any questions, I am going to move on. So now let's move on to conditions. So if I want to check to see if something is greater than something. So I want to say if A is greater than 10, then, right? So in order to tell the compiler what you want to do, you're telling the computer, if the value that is inside of A at this point in time is greater than 10, then do something. But the something that you're going to do is one thing. So all you want to do is one thing. If you want to do one thing, you'll just put the if A is greater than 10. Remember to indent. Please, I'm begging you, indent your code because that makes it easier for teachers to understand. And the easier it is for the teacher to understand, the easier you'll get your marks, right? So if A is greater than 10, press tab. Please indent using tab. Don't press space to indent. Using space to indent is ugly because it doesn't always line up. So I press tab. And then I will say if A is greater than 10, write line, the number is bigger than 10. Now, I keep putting double quotes because I'm accustomed to C, right? So it's actually single quotes you have to put when you're using Pascal. And I put the semicolon. Now, once, what you'll realize is that this whole thing here is one command, one line. What the computer actually sees is this. Computer actually sees if A is greater than 10, then write line, the number is bigger than 10. But for us, because we can't really read a whole line of code and decipher every single thing, we separate the words from then to do it like that. That way, we will know when the if starts and what the if is doing. So let's try to run that and see. So I'll compile it, I'll run it, and now it's going to say, please enter a value for A. I'll put a number that's greater than 10, 13, a number for B, 34.6. And the value of A is 13. The value in B is 36.6. The value is bigger than 10. So our if just worked. Right? So now that I know the if is working, I am good. But what happens when you have two things that you want to do inside a if? Now, what's a common mistake that people, well, normally make? They say, okay, right line, the number is bigger than 10, and the right line, the number you put in was, and I'll put back the E, right? So I basically want the, no, I wanted to say something else. Oh no, I'm not putting else here. I'll put in an else now. Right. So that's if then, right? So now I want to put in an else. Else. What do I want to say? Right line. Else. Right line. The number is smaller than 10. And I have a semicolon there. Now what's the problem I'm going to bounce up? The problem I'm going to bounce up is that the compiler is going to see this semicolon here as the end of the whole statement. And this semicolon here is not where I want the whole statement to finish. I want this to be the end of the whole statement. So what will happen? If I put a number that's less than 10, it's supposed to print out the number is smaller than 10. But it won't, because I'm lying to the compiler by saying stop here. But then I have a next semicolon here. Because remember, the compiler sees an if-then statement as one whole line. So what I need to do, basically what the compiler is seeing is this. If A is greater than 10, right line that, and then the else comes up right after, and then the next right line is like there. This is what the compiler actually sees. The problem is when the compiler sees this, as soon as it bounces up this semicolon here, it'll just be like, all right, I'm done. And then it will try to evaluate this line separately on its own merit, but you can't have an else statement just starting just like that. Must have a corresponding if. So what you have to do is you have to make sure that you don't end the if with this first semicolon here. So you take out a semicolon. So now this whole block here from start all the way down to this semicolon will be seen as one line. And when you see it as one line, then it will compile, because now it knows if it's greater than 10, print that, else print that, and then the semicolon will stop it. Right? So now execute it now. Everything will happen. Please enter a value for A, 23. Please enter a value for B, 45.7. The value of A is 23. The value of B is 45.7. The number is bigger than 10. Done. Let's do it again and try to see if I enter a number less than 10. Enter a value for A, enter 2. 56.8. Doesn't matter. And then it does that. The number is smaller than 10. So it figured it out because I was able to say where the if is going to start and where it's going to stop. All right, now what if you have multiple things that you want to say inside of the if? So if I put the number is bigger than 10 and right line, Pascal is lame. Quotes, Pascal is lame. Something bad is going to happen now because it won't be able to compile the two statements one time. These two statements here won't be able to compile one after the other. And that's an issue because now the compiler just sees this first line as the one that it should follow. But then it's seeing this line here and it's like, okay, I don't understand how to do two lines at a time because it's not smart enough. What you have to do is you have to put a begin and an end inside the if to tell the compiler where the beginning and the end of the if statement is. So I'm saying if A is greater than 10, I want to print all of this that goes from the begin and end. So this is like a baby begin and end. This is like it's like a begin and end for children, because the real begin and end has a full stop, but we're not putting any full stop. We're just putting this begin and end here. So that tells the compiler, okay, this is what I wanted to print if it's greater than 10. So let me compile it and see what happens. I still get error. The reason I'm getting an error is I have to put semicolons inside of them now. Because Pascal is weird. That now that I have this begin and end, these commands must have semicolons for them to be accepted. So I run it again and now it'll be accepted. So if you have multiple commands to put inside of a if statement, then you have to do that. Run and execute. Now it will say if I put the number is bigger than 10, that's 34. Put a decimal number in. the number is bigger than 10, Pascal is lame. That will come up on the screen because I have now said, make sure you have the begin and end to let the compiler know where you're starting and where you're stopping, right? And likewise, it goes for the else. If I have multiple things to put in the else, I'm going to have to put a begin and an end here also. The problem is, when I put the begin and end here, it's still going to look for a semicolon at the end. So I have to put a semicolon on this end for it to count. Watch. End. Semicolon. So all these need to have semicolons, but this end here needs to have a semicolon, because if I don't put that semicolon, I'll get error. So I'll put in the semicolon now. And yeah, it works. So whether I put in numbers greater than 10 or less than 10, so if I put in 4, 5.6, right, the number is smaller than 10, Pascal is lame. So everything working there so far. Good. If you have any questions, ask, but I'm moving on now. So that's an if statement, because I'm doing this in an hour and I have 20 minutes left. All right, so next thing I have to do is a while loop. So this is I'll paste all the code in the comments. This is a selection. The reason I'm doing this is because everybody that messaged me now to be like, so check my code please, because people have messaged me on Instagram all the time and say, what's the error in this? I'll be like, here, I have a video for you to watch. This is a looping statement, for loop. Right, so for a for loop now, you have to create a variable to be able to go up, right? So I will create a and a C. The reason I put in C here, because I could create multiple integers just by putting a comma between them. So I put in a C, and I'm going to put 4C is equal, no, yeah, equal to, colon, equal, I think, 1, 2, 10, do. So what do I want to do in the for loop? I have to put a begin, and I have to put an end, and the end must have a semicolon, because basically whatever goes between the begin and end is what is going to happen 10 times. So I'm going to print, right line, this is a loop. So that's supposed to happen 10 times, because whatever is between the words begin and end semicolon should come up 10 times. So I'll put this is a loop, and then I'll put the loop number, right line, this is loop number C. Yeah, put C, right? So compile. Oh, errors. I didn't right line. Right, sometimes one spelling mistake could cause you a bunch of errors. So I'll click execute and enter a new value for A, which is 34, a new value for B, 45.6, and then it will run the loop. Pascal is lame. This is a loop, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Remember, the number that I'm printing here, the actual number is the C. The reason that the C is printing is because the C is counting from 1 to 10. If you have no idea why this did that, then in the link to this video, in the description to this video, you'll see a playlist on algorithms with 5 videos. Watch that playlist on algorithms and then you'll understand everything. But if you don't understand why this for loop is doing what it's doing, no time to explain that now. What I really wanted to understand is the syntax, which is you must have 4C is equal to 1 to something, and you must have the begin and end for it to know where to start and where to stop, right? Then, to do a while loop now, I could say I could set C is equal to 0 at the start, and then say while C is less than 10, do. And same thing with the for loop. I have to do the begin and then the end, semicolon. And then I'm going to print right line, same thing. Exact same thing that I'm going to have inside here. I'm going to print it here. Right line number C, right, good. So for this for loop, I'm setting C at 0. Okay, let me start it at 1 to make it simple for you. C is equal to 1 and C is less than or equal to 10. That means I'm going to start at 1 and I'm going to end at 10. So when you're converting a for loop to a while loop, what you want to do is you want to get your first condition, which is c is equal to 1, which I have there. You want to get the second thing that you're checking for is c is less than 10. But remember, a for loop is smart enough to count on its own. So you don't want to do this loop without putting in c is equal to c plus 1. If you don't do that, then the while loop will go indefinitely because the number c will always be less than 10. And you'll just get a loop going across your screen over and over and over and over and over. And that is a problem that many people bounce up. But just remember, if your loop is not stopping, make sure you have a way to stop it by putting in the counter. If you don't understand the reasoning for that, watch the playlist in the description and you will get that. So when I run this guy now, I should get 0 errors again. I execute. Enter number for A, which is 12. And then enter the value 34.5, put that there, and it will say this is a loop number 1. Or it does it again. I should change this to say this is the while loop. Yeah, I'll put that as a while loop. And now I will run it and execute. Niham, when you say you get through with your Pascal, good for you, good for you. Glad to hear that. 45.8, right? So you see, this is the for loop here. This is a loop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then the while loop starts. This is the while loop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so that is proving that the two loops work at this point in time, which is the for loop here and the while loop. So pay attention. When you're doing a for loop, you must make sure you have the start section, which is the begin, and then the end to tell you when to stop. And then when you're doing a while loop, you must have the same begin and end, but the while loop must have a variable to start with, what you're trying to go up to, and how much times, well, and keep a count of it so that you will be able to know when to stop. And that'll be the end. All right, so last thing, which is last 15 minutes. How do you do a multiple control structure? So now we're going to do a multiple control structure. So we're going to put if inside of a for. So I'm going to say for c is colon equal, because you're assigning the value to it. 1, 2, 10, do, begin, right? Because I must have the begin and end. If I don't have the begin and end, then it won't work. I must say what I want to be in the begin and end, right? So I want to say, ask the user, write line, enter a number, and then I'll read the number, read A. So I'm reading it into A because I have an A already. And then I want to say if A is greater than 50, then begin, write line, the student has passed, write line, their grade is something percent. So I'll put their grade is, and I'll put single quotes here, comma, their grade is A, and then I'll put a comma, and then I'm going to put the percent symbol. Percent. Right, so that way it's going to print. This is a way to print the variable and then print more words after. So if I print the name here, the words here, print the variable, and then I print the percentage sign after. Then I can put end here. Now, the reason I'm putting end is because I'm finished with the first part of the if, which is the if part. But now I'm going to put else. So I want to put now else. I'll put a begin and end again because I'm going to put multiple statements. Begin, write line, the student failed. So I'll copy in this and I'm going to put it in, write line, the student has failed. Their grade is that, right? So the same thing happening. But now the end I'm going to put here is with a semicolon, because that now means I'm checking if it's greater than 50, then begin this sequence here. Else, if it's not greater than 50, begin this sequence here. But this semicolon here says I am finished with the whole if sequence, because if it didn't have the semicolon at the end here, it would know what was going on. So I'm telling the compiler, check this, do that if you have to, do that if you have to. But once you reach this semicolon here, I'm finished with the whole if sequence, which is sort of confusing, but that's basically how it works. And you should understand what you're telling the computer. Check this line, check to see if the condition is correct. If the condition is correct, do this stuff here. If the condition is not correct, then do this stuff here. But if you reach to this semicolon here, we're done. And then, because I have a begin here and an end here, I know that the for loop starts here and then the for loop ends here. And that's the reason that you need to do indentation. Indentation matters a lot, because if you do indent it properly, it will look like that. So basically, this is going to ask me to put in a number, and 10 times I'm going to get a number and check to see if it's greater than 50. If it's greater than 50, it will print pass, else it will print fail. So let's see what will happen. Yeah, compile, execute. Please enter a value for A. Well, this is the original part of the program, right? So this is the first part. Value for B, 45.7. Right, so now it's going to ask enter a number. So I'm going to enter a number, which is 46. The student failed, their grade is 46. I'll put 67, the student pass, right? 55, they should pass. 50, they should pass. No, 50 is a fail. Oh, I didn't put greater than or equal to. Okay. 34 should fail. 89 should pass. 90 should pass. 11 should fail. And 34 should fail. 56 should fail. 38 fail too, right? And that will be me creating a loop that is going to do two things. And ask the person to enter a number and then check to see if it's greater or smaller, which is basically all the CSEC IT SP is going to ask you to do. Loop something, then do a if inside of it, and then that's all you need to do. Before, you used to have to do arrays and all that kind of stuff, but they've taken that out of the syllabus. So all you have to do is literally just be able to do a for loop on a if. So these are the basic things for Pascal. Of course, you could substitute a float. You could substitute a real, a decimal number, for an integer if you want. If you have to read a string, you can read a string the same way. So let me just show you how to read a name. So let me create a name string. Right, so name string, I'm going to ask the user, this is another sentence. Okay, I'm gonna put this at the start. No, actually I'll put it in here, read, yeah. So if I want to read the person's name, right line, please enter your name, and then I'm putting in read name. And then when I print back out the name, right line, the name, your name is colon, single quotes, comma, name. And that's all, and it'll print back out the name. So you can read names, you can read letters, you can read whatever you want, it will still work. I spelled right line wrong. W-R-I-T-E, yeah. Spelling errors are usually one of the most common syntax errors I have. So let's say please enter a value for A. I put the value for A as 34 and the value for B as 56.7. Accept it. Did it ask for the name? It didn't ask for the name. Oh, please enter your name. But your name is, why didn't it read it? Oh, I didn't read the name. No, please enter your name. Oh, I'll put read line name. Or else the name wouldn't read, I believe. Let's double check now. The name didn't read. Read any string in Pascal. Yeah, it's supposed to just read it. Oh, no. That's weird. Isn't any reading name. I'll name a string there. All right. You could Google and figure it out. I have 5 minutes. All right, so I'm taking questions before I end this. Right. So this is Pascal in 1 hour. Questions quickly. Anybody? Questions. Oh, the string didn't read by. You're welcome, Ganesh. All right, cool. So that's the day, guys. You're welcome. All right, thank you very much for your time. I will see you next week when I'll probably try to do C programming in an hour. Or as it come closer to Christmas, I don't know. I'll figure out what to do next week. You know, these things are fluid. Why is my camera not focusing? It's not focusing. Too late now. Bye bye. Thank you for coming. Remember to share with a friend. And anybody who asks if they could do Pascal, send them this video. This basically teaches you everything.